What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams. As always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? I almost messed up. It's weird. Like, it only happens sometimes when I try to change my cadence. I was like, I need to slow down, and then it just falls apart. So what is going on? So if you have not done so already, please go back and tune into all of our other almost 500 episodes. I think we're like 490 something now. Uh, I gotta keep better track, so I like, this is episode 500, but I didn't. So you get what you get. You don't get upset. All right. Pinkalicious just taught me that story to read to my kids. Um, but with all that being said, please go back, tune in. Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, and then Thursday's going to be a throwback this week. So it's going to be an older episode I want to highlight, and then Fridays, everything else, movies, books, games, all that good stuff. But without further ado, I'll give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. This article comes from bleepingcomputer.com by Bill Toulis, and it's titled "Canada Bans WeChat and Kaspersky Products on Government Devices." So I was kind of surprised to see this because I want to say with the DoD, the United States Department of Defense, they did that at least 5 years ago when it came to Kaspersky. And WeChat is not something I don't think is really on the radar to even have on government devices, but anyway,
that wouldn't even make sense.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, not a need, but Canada's banned the use of Kaspersky security products and Tencent's WeChat app on mobile devices used by government employees, citing network and national security concerns. Again, at least 5 years ago. I would have to look it up to see when it was, but I can remember this. I can remember this happening before I retired, which was 2019. So it was probably before that even. It could have been 6-7 years ago, but it was always something that was talked about. And even before DoD decided to ban it, it was something that was always out there. It's kind of like TikTok, right? So it's like TikTok, China could be using it to infiltrate some to bring in some data, from people that are doing stuff they probably shouldn't be doing on there anyway. But Canada's they're doing it now, right? So them having to bring smartphones and tablets into and out of workspaces, right? They're worried about data siphoning, right? And it's harder to monitor when it's with devices that people are bringing in and out of these areas. So they're like, yep, Kaspersky products, WeChat, we're not doing that anymore, right? So they say that it presents an unacceptable level of risk of privacy and security. And again, when the United States government did it, it was not a secret. Like, I want to say there was even stories out there about it saying, hey, same thing that Canada's doing right now, we're doing for Kaspersky products because of this, that, and the third, right? So they're worried about Russia and China siphoning off data and collecting intel that they just don't want out there, right? Because it comes to a point where you can only trust people so much, right? Like, you could tell them, okay, don't do this with these products, don't mention these things on social media or whatever, but it comes to a point where you got to take it out of their hands, right? Like, just don't make it allowable, make it something, don't provide them the means to do so, right? Because people are going to do what people want to do, right? They're going to think they know better than their governments that have done the research and gone out there and have people that are paid to make sure things are safe. So they now here's the thing, they don't have any hard evidence that the Russian or the Chinese government are doing any type of siphoning, but just based off what they've seen and what's been out there already, they see this as being a way to have data siphoned. Now, with this being said, right, Kaspersky's saying it's political reasons, right? So because it's Russia, we all know what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. They think it's just one of those things where, like, oh, this is political grounds that you guys are doing this on. You don't have any proof of it, which they readily admit. Canada readily admits that. So Russia's just like, hey, look, this is why you're doing it. But again, the United States government did it 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? Before Ukraine. Now, mind you, that was closer to Crimea, right? What was it they went into? Yeah, Crimea.
Georgia. Was it Georgia?
Georgia? What was it, 6 years ago? Whatever it was. Russia went in there and
they stay invading people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it was around that time. So it could have been political then, but Russia is of the impression that no, this is the reason for it now. And the same thing goes for China, right? Like, for them, with the stuff they're doing out in the Pacific, and them having the meetings they're having with Russia and North Korea and India, even. I want to say they even had a meeting with recently. It could be one of those things where they think it's just politically motivated. But no, I mean this is old news, right? That Canada should have been on a long time ago. And the fact that they have to put this out now leads me to believe that they did have people that had those products on their phones up until this point to make the ban, right? It's not like it's something um, people were aware of, that they were taking good measures against. But this is where we are now. They're saying, all right, no Kaspersky products, no WeChat. So this is their way of protecting against Russian and Chinese siphoning attempts. So, Ryan, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I so completely agree with you again, right? So I heard something recently that says that a good podcasting is disagreeing. Like, so that's what brings a good podcast together. So we got to disagree more often, right? But before I get into it, so again, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit a bell if a bell's involved. Like we want to get more visibility if possible. So share with your friends. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And it's the nerve for me, right? Like because like China just did it themselves. So like I know Kaspersky, there you go. I can't say it. Is more out of Russia, but WeChat's definitely out of China. Tencent is buying everything. I didn't know Tencent owned that. Tencent is both remarkable and scary. They own so much stuff. Like if you look into it, like their umbrella is humongous. I wouldn't be surprised if they're either in collaboration with Huawei or they own Huawei in some regard. I don't know. I've never done the research, but Tencent always comes up, especially in the gaming circles, because they just buy everything. It's crazy. Um, but yeah, we talked about it before. Like China's banning iPhones, right? Like their government officials can't have iPhones because they know we're spying. They they know for a fact. So it's two things for me. It's one, it's nationality and loyalty. So like even though you might have a U.S. arm of these companies, like TikTok has a U.S. arm, ultimately you go back to the mothership, right? So even though you're a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil performing the duties of a TikTok, that doesn't mean that you don't have some kind of tie back to China in some regard. Doesn't mean that if China comes a calling, comes a knocking, that you don't have to provide them whatever they ask for, because ultimately you are a subsidiary of China in some regard. So the whole thing I tell my kids, because they're like, oh, you're being super paranoid. TikTok's not gonna do anything. This TikTok's US. It is not. And we can't put the TikTok ultimate CEO under the jail like we could a Zuckerberg or a Elon, right? So it comes to who can we uh who can we trust and who can we hold accountable? And if it's a company like Kaspersky out of Russia, we can't do much to them. Like, yeah, we could lock up their whole US arm if something were to go wrong, but that doesn't take care of the problem. They're safe in their seats back back in Mother Russia where we can't do anything. So it's not to say that they are doing something wrong. It's about like it's about nationality. It's about the ability to hold their feet to the fire, and we just don't have that. And Canada, like for whatever reason, took 5 years to get there, but they finally got there as well. So we're not insane. And then the second part is it's like they say cheaters are always paranoid that their partner is cheating. Like that's the same thing that's happening here, right? Like we know we're spying, like they gotta be spying. So we know what we're doing. So then at the same time, we're like, who can we trust? Who can we not trust? So the entities coming out of other countries that are obviously have a interest in siphoning our data, like you said, or obtaining more information about us, of course, can be trusted, especially on government devices. So it's only a matter of time. So even if it is political, um, and that was the final tipping point, like there's a bunch of other stuff that we have to be concerned about. So that's why I always try to tell my kids, like you have to be careful who you provide and share your data with. Like you shouldn't share it with US companies either, because it's not within your best interest, but especially not foreign entities, because they definitely want to 25 years from now be able to throw you under the bus. Right?
When you're running for political office, that's usually.
Right. Yeah, they'll have a database on you. Like, oh, this guy, we could target this guy or this gal or whomever. Or they can steal your identity, or they can we talked about the 23andMe thing. Now they have the, very, very intimate data about you in China, about where your family comes from, who's related to you. Um, your genome, right? Like your actual, like, this person's gonna get cancer. You know what I mean? Um, and so many other things. Like, in the back of my mind, like, I don't know if we're there yet, but like, we're working on targeting. We're working on the science to make drugs work better for individuals, right? Like drugs and treatment. Like, what do they have on you? Like, can they make a better disease? And this tinfoil hat theories, right? But like, we don't know what the future holds a decade from now, 2 decades from now. Like, could they target you based upon the information that you gave to 23andMe? Who's to say? Like, again, that's speculation, but like, I think the science is getting there. So in this case, it's stealing your PI, it's stealing your location data, it's stealing your friends, your social networks, your voice, your image, like all that's going to a foreign body. Even if they say, like TikTok says, like all that stuff stays in the US, we have US servers. Again, is there a tie back to China? So same thing with Russia. Like, we just don't know, and we can't force their hand because we don't own them. Like we do, we could bring Zuckerberg to Congress and ask him a bunch of asinine questions, because that was almost cursed. You're the wrong people asking the questions in that case, just because a lot of these people are obviously older in Congress, but also a lot of them are career politicians that came from the legal realm, which is great, but they don't understand technology, which is bad. You're asking the wrong questions. Um, so I say all to say, I think it's a good move on Canada's part. Go Canada. Like, you finally made it. You finally caught up in this regard. But their motivations, whether they be political or paranoia or what have you, it just makes sense to not allow people to use foreign apps on their government phones. Like, duh. So, but I think we all need to get there, right? We all need to push towards that from population standpoint. Because it doesn't matter if they have a US arm or a Canada arm or what have you. Again, the mothership is back in the other country. So
So
that's my
so
2 cents.
so let me ask you this. So you said disagreement makes for a good podcast. We may disagree here, right? So you
Okay.
think China banned iPhones because they think Americans are spying on them through the iPhones?
Through the iPhones, the applications, and then on top of it, it's they don't own Apple, right? They own Huawei, so you can have a
They
Huawei phone,
they don't, but where are they being built at?
which
Like
is
all that
true,
stuff is being built
which
in
is
China.
which is which is true, but like, it's on their soil, but I don't think they have as much of a hand in it if they want to. And then they don't have the ability to tie back. They can't make a Tim Cook like do what they want to do. Like, hey, we want to spy on our people. I need you to
I
put these things in the iPhone that allows to spy. He's gonna say no. Just keep making my phones.
I think that the oversight from the US side is going to be lacking. I think China could be over there in their factories being like, okay, this this piece of hardware is going to do this and it's going to tie back this way and it's going to do this, it's going to do this, it's going to do.
Hmm.
I just don't think the oversight from the US is like all they care about is we need to make 5 million of these to sell these. You know
Right.
what I mean? Okay,
Right. You
10
you might have something
a
there. Like,
month.
it is
You
it
know what
is
I'm saying?
on another entity's soil, right? I think Apple is too big for the government not to be our government to not to be uh more vigilant over them. There's probably like an entire department that's just focused on like making sure that wherever these parts are being mined from, right? So where the materials are being mined, all the way to distribution, and whatever R&D and all that other stuff.
All the way through the supply chain, right? But I can guarantee you, Apple has
Yeah.
some of the best lawyers in this country. To like, I can guarantee it. You don't
That's
get
true
paid
though. That is true though. But you can't
trillion.
you can't make an iPhone in the US. You know how much an iPhone will cost in the US?
Oh, I know.
$5,000
I know.
per phone,
Yeah.
at least.
Yep.
But you bring up a good point though. Like, it even though I'm sure there's a lot of investment on Apple's part and the US's part. Ultimately, the people who work in the factories who are subject to whatever their pay is. I'm sure it's still better than regular pay in that regard. It's not US pay by any means. Like, we would charge arm and a leg. I work for Apple. I make iPhones. I need at least $50 an hour. But we they have a loyalty of their own, right? Like, yeah, they work for Apple, they work for Sir Tim Cook. I don't know if he's been knighted yet. Um, but at the end of the day, they still are they're still not US citizens. You bring up a good point. I can't stop having Apple products in my house though. I can't do it, Shannon. But I gotta wrap up the show. But that's a good point. I never thought about that. So that's something to think about. But please hit us up by all the socials that go by our name. Please hit me up personally. Stay safe, stay secure.